Hello and welcome back. In this episode we're going to be making some standing stones, like this one that you can see here. And as usual, you can find a link to the PDF file for these down in the description. Okay then, so if you're anything like me, you've probably got lots of bits of foam core left over from various other projects. So in this video we're going to be putting some of that to use. So the first thing we'll need to do is simply cut a piece of foam core into the desired shape. And for this particular stone, I've made sure that the bottom is flat. Size wise, it's roughly 1 inch wide and 2 inches tall, and as you can see, I've also kind of tapered it towards the top. But yeah, the overall size and shape is up to you. And for this project, we'll also need some masking tape, and the stuff I'm using is the really cheap stuff that comes in packs of 3 or 4 for £1. Anyway, all we're going to do with this tape is tear off a small piece and kind of scrunch it up a little bit and then stick it to one side of the foam core. We're then going to repeat the process with several more pieces, and what we're trying to do here is just bulk out the flat sides, so that when we eventually glue the texture on top, they'll look a bit more uneven. So that's all I'm doing here. Though it is worth noting that I'm adding more tape to the bottom of the piece than I am to the top, just so, again, the whole thing is wider at the bottom and gets narrower the closer it gets to the top. So yeah, there's the last piece going on now, and that should end up looking something like this. So hopefully you can see what I've done there. Then we'll just need to do the exact same thing to the other side, which is what you can see me doing here. And because we're just using tape, the nice thing is there's not really any waiting around for things to dry. So there you go, that's how it looks at this stage. And if you've got any bits of tape that are overhanging the bottom of the foam core, it's a simple matter of trimming them away. There you go. Okay then, next we'll need to cut out a piece of the stone texture that's a bit bigger than the foam core piece, and we're going to scrunch that up several times to make it nice and malleable. So, something like that. Then we'll apply some glue to the back of the paper and stick the foam core piece in the middle, making sure to push it down firmly on top of the tape, you know, so that it gets into all the little nooks and crannies. Next, we'll take a sharp pair of scissors and cut around the foam core, leaving a border that's maybe a little bit less than the thickness of the foam core itself. So, since the stuff I'm using is 5mm thick, I'm aiming for a border of around 4mm, though it doesn't need to be exact. Then we'll need to make lots of little cuts all the way around this border, like you can see me doing here. And then I like to add a bit more glue to these little tabs, just because the glue that I'm using, it tends to start drying out by the time I've got to this stage, and then fold them over and stick them to the edge of the foam core. So yeah, here I am doing just that, and when it's done we should end up with this kind of thing. So hopefully you can see how the tape has given the whole thing more of a 3-dimensional appearance. Anyway, all we'll need to do then is the exact same thing on the other side, so I'll really speed this next part up while I'm doing that. And I'll fill the dead air by saying feel free to come and join the Discord server, or the Facebook page if you like. There's links to all that kind of stuff in the description. But yeah, here's how our piece looks once that's done, though you might get the odd area where the texture hasn't quite covered all of the foam, like you can see at the bottom here. So what I like to do is cut a strip of the stone texture that's the same width as the foam core, so 5mm in this instance, and while you could just patch up the 1 or 2 areas where the foam's showing, I sometimes prefer to cover the entire edge. So here I am scrunching up the texture again, then applying some glue to the back, and then sticking this all the way around the foam core, again making sure to push it into all the little nooks and crannies. So if I cut away the excess and glue the end down, this is how it should end up looking, so yeah, just a plain old standing stone. However, you've probably noticed that in the PDF I've also included a few engravings. So if you want to add one of these, you'll simply need to cut it out, leaving approximately a 1mm border around the edge of the pattern itself. So there you go, something like that. Then we can scrunch up the pattern like before, apply plenty of glue to the back, and stick that to one side of the standing stone. And with any luck, that should end up looking something like this. So all we'll need to do now is make a base, and for this I've just glued some of the floor pattern from the last episode to a bit of card. And to stick them together, we can just use a bit of hot glue, like I'm doing here. And that's all there is to it really. There's the finished piece, which in this instance is covered with some kind of strange runes or markings. Though if you like, you could also add some tall grass around the bottom. Again, this can be found in episode 73. Or you could make a ring of smaller stones on their own base, like you can see here, as I think that also works pretty well. And if you really want to go to town, you could also make something like this. They're all made using the same technique, except that for this last one I actually used some polystyrene that I had lying around, just to make the stones a bit thicker. But yeah, I think that's it for this episode, and on the whole I think they work quite well. You know, when you consider what they've been made from. So, thank you very much for watching. As always, I hope you can find a use for some of this stuff. Let me know in the comments if you do plan on making some of these, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.